Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm Glenn, I'm joined with Julian tonight, and we have another Childhood Heroes episode. So, if you might have seen the last couple, today we are going to be talking about Ian Rush, who is Julian's childhood hero. If you've missed the last couple, the idea of the show is that we're going to speak about memories, moments that are really important to the guest. Okay, so Julian, take it away. Firstly, before we get into actual Rush himself, yourself growing up, being in London, why Liverpool?
So, yeah, I was born many an age ago, 1975, and went to school in a place called Sunbury-on-Thames, which is very far from Liverpool in English terms. In American terms, it's just down the street. Yeah. I remember going out with my father when I was 5 or 6 and picking out a bag for school. All right.
Wow.
So my dad took me out. Hey, you're going to pick a bag out for school. And my dad was like, you see that red bag that says Liverpool on it? This is the bag you're going to have. I mean, I knew nothing. So I'm like, okay. And
so was he,
I
did
got
he
the
spell
bag.
Liverpool then?
Yeah, he was. So he was a musician. So he used to play gigs all over. He used to play in Liverpool a lot, and he had even though originally he was from Devon, then moved to London, he had a big affinity for Liverpool. He used to travel up to Liverpool all the time, play gigs there. All he spoke about was Liverpool. Was a massive fan of the Beatles and Jerry and the Pacemakers and Cilla Black. So his love of Liverpool kind of transgressed, like pushed onto his son. And so, like a lot of people, I didn't pick Liverpool. Liverpool were chosen for me. And I ended up, all throughout school, I was, there was a couple of other Liverpool fans there, but mainly it was your Arsenal and Chelsea and Tottenham were the main clubs there. But I was proud of it. I mean, everyone knew I was a Liverpool fan because at the age of 6, I had a bag that was red that had a Liverpool across it. So, you had to learn a lot when you were young.
100%.
You're going to take abuse. What are you going to do to give it back? So
what was the point then what was the point that you first fell in love with Ian Rush? Was it the moustache?
It was the moustache. I mean, that was such an impressive. I'd never seen a moustache that impressive in my life. Besides Kenny Everett. Do you remember Kenny? That was before your time. He was an English comedian, quite magnificent. Or the bloke that was on Rent-A-Ghost. That was before your time. Look on YouTube and you educate yourself to some fantastic characters and TV moustaches. But no, it was. I distinctly remember it because it was the 83, 84 season. So I was 8. It was January 84. So I was 8 years old, and I remember watching on TV clips of Aston Villa versus Liverpool. Right, and I was already aware of Liverpool. But my memory, if I was to pick one moment for Ian Rush, it was that because Liverpool were losing at halftime away at Aston Villa, and then second half, Ian Rush was just put in one of the most magnificent performances I had seen up to that day. That was the day he scored a hat trick, and he scored left foot, right foot, header, and all three goals were unbelievable. And I remember distinctly watching that and overnighting and like, wow, this bloke is the greatest player ever. And it was from that point where I was already massively into Liverpool, but that was the player. I knew about Kenny Dalglish, but Rush was that one where it was like, oh wow, this guy is
white kit,
sensational.
Was that the white kit?
Yellow.
That was the yellow one.
Hopefully I'm right. I'm going off memory. I think it was the yellow. It was the yellow kit away at Aston Villa. That beautiful yellow kit, because I got that kit a week after.
Oh, did you? Because from seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, it changed everything overnight when I saw that performance. I have a photo of me in that yellow kit
So this is another mad one. We did an episode with Belcross a couple of weeks ago, and we spoken about like how football was just so different back then, as in how we sort of like digested it and all that. But like back then, did you even have a name on the back of your shirt?
No, you
Because they
couldn't.
didn't, did they? They didn't. Did they even have a number, or was it just the top? I don't want to be like.
You could. Numbers had barely started to happen.
Right, okay.
Right,
So
and it was
just a Liverpool
this
top.
crappy kind of number that you could see a player would
Yeah,
peel off
yeah.
during the game. I don't remember getting. I don't believe you could get a name on the shirt. I had number 9 on the back, but you couldn't get the name. That was too. That was a big deal. If you got, I mean, you couldn't. It wasn't possible. But I had the yellow
names
shirt.
Come in. It's mad, isn't it? I wonder when names actually came in. Anyway, we'll look at that later. But,
we won't look it up on our phone. But I don't remember
so
when that was.
84 then.
Yeah.
European Cup as well.
So that was the year of the European Cup. So I remember following that season, staying up, watching games. I distinctly remember a game against Panathinaikos. The Panathinaikos were brutal. Were just
kicking them all over the pitch.
Just kicking the players all over. But that run to the European Cup final was unbelievable. I remember watching the final, being allowed to stay up to watch it, and it went on a long time. It wasn't, it was against Roma in Rome in their own stadium, and it wasn't a great game, but it went through to extra time. Then he went to penalties, and then Alan Kennedy got the winning goal, and it was like 10 o'clock at night and school night, and I remember being allowed to stay up, and I wasn't going to bed for that. I mean, I was already well in my obsessive phase, and that was an unbelievable night.
It's mad to think of like the amount. I hope you guys can't hear that bird. I imagine you can, but it's about to get shot in a minute.
Well, we are
a bird that's up there.
We are in Texas, so that's legal in some way, isn't it? Right?
It's starting to get on my nerves. Anyway, I think around that period, just the sheer amount of goals that he scored was just ridiculous, wasn't it? It was just ridiculous.
He was so
goals.
Clinical, and you could say this about a number of players, but especially Ian Rush. If he got the ball in a certain position in or around the box, he was going to hit the target.
Yeah.
It's very rare. If you look back on video, look at Ian Rush. Like he always hit the target, and he was so precise with his finishing. His angles, like when he would get the ball, you look back on the highlights of all of his goals, and they're always right in the corner.
Yeah.
Right? And he could score left foot, right foot, head, volleys. He was unbelievably clinical.
Is there a player that you would you could sort of compare him to now?
No. I mean, by immediate, there's some players that are similar finishing wise, but as an all-round player,
here's a bit like him, a little bit, maybe. I mean, I obviously never seen.
Who did you say? Who?
Maybe Torres, maybe.
A little bit, yeah. Torres.
Or the way that we'd work and stuff.
If you were to compare Rush to a player, these days or in the past 10, 15 years or something, Fowler was very Firmino on one point, because Fowler was one of the first players. His work rate was insane. Like, we talk about strikers now tracking back, right? Getting the ball from midfield, bringing other people into play. Rush.
You're talking about Fowler here or
Rush?
Oh, you said Fowler.
Did I say Fowler?
Yeah. You're thinking about that Delcross one.
The Delcross bridge.
Yeah.
But Rush worked his bollocks off. Rush was you talk about pressing and closing down. Rush would not stop. He would harass the centre-backs. If the centre-backs were bringing the ball out, he would challenge, he would win the ball back, and he was known for that. He was one of the first players that was doing that. He was known not just for his finishing, but his work rate was magnificent, and the way he was able to bring the midfield into the game as well was brilliant. So there was a little bit of that in him. In regards to his finishing, Lewandowski stands out as one similar.
It's a good shout. Yeah, it's a good shout.
Haaland, of course, the way he's so direct. But Ian Rush is one of a kind. It's very hard to compare him to any players. Lewandowski maybe doesn't have the pace. Rush was quick.
Yeah.
It was really fast. Yeah, a bit of Lewandowski, a little bit of Torres, a little bit of Firmino.
Okay, going on to '86 then. You know, one of the best years in Liverpool's history. What can you remember of it? Obviously, he was a massive part in the cup final itself.
So the first Merseyside derby, FA Cup final at Wembley, the build up to that day, and you've got to remember the FA Cup final was a massive deal back then. Teams did not get to play at Wembley all the time. Yeah. So when two teams from the north, Liverpool and Everton, come to Wembley, it was extremely rare. It's not like now where, you know, the semi-finals are played there, the playoff finals are played there, or whatever. It was a big deal, and it would be on TV the entire day. Like the coach, the hotel, the coach ride to the stadium. I still remember the birds.
Yeah.
New Order's music was played over the lineup, and you didn't know the team sheet until when either it was on the radio, maybe it was on TV. It was a big deal, and we were magnificent that season. But the first half kind of overwhelmed us a little bit. Everton were easily the better side, and deserved, and Lineker scored the first goal, and we went in at half time and we didn't play well.
Yeah.
No,
I'm just
like on the,
yeah. No.
For the second half, wow.
No.
That was quite magnificent. Jan Molby was legendary in that second half, and
do you think that's one of his? Do you think that's one of one of his best goals, or one of the most important goals that you can think of? It's got to be up there.
Yeah, I mean, his third goal.
Do the commentary.
It's Rush on the far side. Is this three? It is.
He loves it.
And surely now the league and cup double going to be one. Yeah, I mean, it was a legendary moment.
Yeah.
Brilliant finish. Amazing ball over the top by Ronnie Whelan. Rush scores, bottom corner, hits the camera. The commentary is amazing. We win the FA Cup double with the player manager Kenny Dalglish. It's one of the most iconic moments in our history.
It's so underrated as well, isn't it? Because obviously the European Cup or the Champions League, I mean, it's become such a massive thing that even like the FA Cup now is not like a thing. But to beat them to the league, because we were well behind in the league, and then to go and beat them in the cup final is just it's insane, isn't it? Really, but moving on.
But one more thing on the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
There was, before the game started, it was live on TV, and there was video, and there was fans trying to get into the stadium.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of fans outside. You remember the old towers?
I know which one you mean.
In Wembley. You know, have you seen the footage?
Yeah, it's brilliant.
The swing across.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what happened to them fellas, because that was one hell of a jump.
He got in, didn't he?
Yeah. And he gets pulled up through the window. But
it's brilliant.
That's another iconic moment of that day.
So moving on then to going to Juventus, can you sort of remember how it came about, and just what you felt at the time?
I don't remember being surprised, because there was talk about it, because Graham Souness had gone to Sampdoria a couple of seasons before, and Italy back then was
the best league.
I mean, it was the Premier League of the 80s, and maybe even in the early to mid 90s. Like, the best players in the world generally tended to go to Italy, and that's where the money was as well.
Yeah.
So I don't remember being surprised, because there was a lot of talk about Rush might be going and he might be sold. So I wasn't surprised that he was sold. Italy was seen as the best league in the world. I think I was more surprised he went to Juventus, but again, at the time, they were one of the best teams in world football, European football.
I think they had Platini at the time, didn't they? They had Platini as well.
There was Platini there.
Probably one of the best players in the world.
Yeah, he was fantastic. So yeah, I remember being disappointed Those birds are going to be really disappointed in a minute.
So he's one for you then. So like,
Yeah.
what happened? What happened with Juventus? Like, why didn't it work for him? Was it a bit of everything? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't sell. He struggled to learn the language. The style of Italy was a lot slower. Sorry, we have Del Cross who's watching us attacking, chasing the birds off.
He's gonna end up getting ran over here, and he by running over.
I mean, there was a combination of things. The style didn't suit him.
Yeah.
Basically, the way the Italians played, the slow build-up, defenses were a lot deeper. Ian Rush was really fast, played, generally on the last line, was able to make, runs in behind. Italian teams didn't really play like that, and yeah, it didn't really work out for him, unfortunately. But he gave it a go, and like Ian Rush said, he struggled because it was like living in a foreign country.
Yeah, I know. That's funny. That's about it. Was that actually true? I heard that was sort of, that wasn't necessarily true what he said, or he was taking the piss. But anyway, he comes back. Was that a big shock, or was it? Because it
was a shock actually.
Did he come back on loan? I only found this out today that he came back originally on loan. Is that right?
I'd have to look it up. I don't remember him coming back on loan, but is that true? He came on loan.
That's what it says. Yeah, it said he came back on loan originally.
I remember the moment he came back, and people were surprised because you got to remember we had
Aldridge as well at the time, haven't we?
Well, we had Aldridge, we had John Barnes, we had Peter Beardsley, and Dalglish had built one of the greatest sides we'd ever seen. That 87-88 season.
Yeah.
It was perfect. It was magnificent, and so everyone, of course, was overjoyed by it. Rush comes back, but yeah, it was a bit surprising. It was like, how's this going to work? Because everyone was okay. We're going to see the lookalikes. We're going to see Aldridge. We're going to see Rush as a partnership. I mean, that was going to work, and in the end, it didn't really work. But
yeah, no,
happy he was back.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because like when he comes back, like if you look at his actual career before he went to Juventus, the number of goals is absolutely outrageous. Yeah. You've got to remember this is at a time where, like, it's not like now. It's not like now where teams are playing really high and there's loads of space and stuff. He's probably got like, I think he's got his ratio it's better than 1 in every 2 games. Yeah. And then when he comes back, it's such a weird time for Liverpool. I wonder, I might not say this, and I don't know if he's been asked, I wonder whether he sort of regrets coming, or maybe not necessarily even coming back, but maybe not leaving even a little bit earlier than when he did, because he did not playing some shite at the end, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He was
there for ages, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there for a long time. But he comes back and he becomes a little bit of a squad player as well.
Helped Fowler massively, didn't he?
He did. But before that, I mean, talking about FA Cup finals, there was the 89 FA Cup final, which was important for, of course, many reasons. And he was on the bench that day. And him being Ian Rush comes off the bench.
Was he on the bench that day, was he?
He was on the bench.
That's crazy, that.
He wore shirt number 14. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments, but I believe he wore shirt number 14. He comes off the bench and scores 2 goals. Little header, and then little one, he brings it down, turns, and he wins the FA Cup. And then there's that footage of John Barnes running towards Rush. And you're like, come on, Barnes. It's like it's in slow motion because Barnes is like this. But yeah, and then wins the FA Cup and Rush is back. But yeah, he was on the bench that day, and he was more of a squad player. He was rotated, you would say, that season especially.
Yeah, it is crazy to think, but he, do you think he'll ever be beaten?
No.
Do you think the goal record will ever? Because it's like you look at the goals, right, and you think it's fucking mental, like, isn't it? Like,
when you say beat, I mean you mean mental. For Liverpool? Yeah, I mean for Liverpool, I can't see it in our lifetime, unless Salah stays for another 15 years, and he's playing for like. It's not going to happen.
He'd have to stay for like 6 more years and score 30 every year.
Yeah, no,
I don't even think that's even enough. I can't remember what Salah's on, to be fair, but I don't think it is absolutely outrageous, isn't it? When you really think of it, and think that he had a season out when he was, in his prime, obviously at Juventus.
And there was less games back then. You know, there wasn't the in the European Cup back then. Now, of course, the Champions League.
Yeah, we weren't in it.
We didn't play the number of games that's played now.
Well, we weren't in it from 85
You
to
know? Yeah.
from 86 to 90 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or even after that period, we weren't in it, were we? So
it just shows how, going back to how he started, how clinical, how precise he was with his finishing, how sensational. You knew that if Rush got the ball in a certain position, most likely he's going to hit the target and he's probably going to score. And I don't think that record's ever going to be beaten.
It's gonna be one hell of a football that does it, isn't it? But we'll move on, mate. What is before we end it? Is there a moment that you think about his very, very, very? I have to edit this bit out because he's fucking doing random shit in the background to put me off. I'm just talking nonsense. Is it?
No, I tell you what though, it's fun. Chris, what are you showing us? Because Chris has got some stats.
What is it? Huh? It was 14.
It was 14?
Oh, Sam, don't tell us in 5 minutes when we've ended it, you fucking prick.
14. All right, go on. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, is there a moment that sticks out that's your favourite moment of Rush, or the moment that you think about of Rush?
Rush is on the far side.
Yeah.
Is this 3? It is. That, to me...
I have heard you say about 25 times.
It's the iconic moment, because that was the game where I kind of, it kind of changed things a little bit, and I'll never forget that. And luckily enough, a couple of years ago, I was in Boston, and Jamie Webster was over in the Anfield Wrap, and Liverpool were playing some pre-season games, and Smeetzer was here, Berger was here, and Ian Rush came. So.
How did they go from Rush to Smeetzer and Berger?
Look at that. So I was very lucky enough to meet Ian Rush.
Yeah.
Have a little chat, have a beer.
You tell him that commentary? Did you?
He was. I actually spoke to him about that. The Aston Villa game, the game that the hat trick, and he was well impressed. He actually went over to. I think Rushy was a little bit drunk. And he went over to Paddy Berg. He's like, "Oh, he remembers me scoring a hat trick against Aston Villa." He told him, but yeah, that was a good moment to meet him. But fantastic player.
It's class to meet, to have met your probably hero.
It is, and just to meet them. Don't hang out with them too long. She might be disappointed. Well, but it's good to just kind of say hello.
We'll see in a few weeks who mine is, and mine's an absolute prick. So.
El Hadji Joof?
No, not as bad as that. But guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you like, subscribe, and again, every single Sunday these episodes are going to be coming out. So get ready for it, and we'll see you at the next one. See you later. Bye bye. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm Glenn, I'm joined with Julian tonight, and we have another episode. I'll do it again, fuck off.
Music.
Let me go from now.